Hey, good morning. Scott's trying to get his internet straightened up here. You see me moving. Scott looks a little frozen. Fortunately, it wasn't a goofy face, but I mean, unfortunately, it's not a goofy face. It should be a goofy face. We should like goofy faces. So, uh, yeah, he was breaking up. Hey, there he is. Now he's moving around a little bit.
They changed something in how this connects to make this a hotspot on my phone,
Yeah.
and it's like not doing it right. So I might have choppy. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see if I can
Yeah.
figure out how to switch it over. Worst case, I got to sign in on my phone.
Well, you should be fine. It's you were breaking up pretty bad there for a second. So, are you using?
Yeah.
Do you have an iPhone or an Android?
Android.
Okay. That should just be turn on the hotspot and whatever you set it up as. Like I have mine as
It's different now, though.
mine didn't change. I just used it not too long ago.
Yeah, I know.
I just scrolled. I pulled down
Something
here
changed.
and it says mobile hotspot. I turned it on. I have I named it a long time ago. Mine is get your own internet penny, and then I have my password.
Well, I do mine with I connect it to a USB on my computer, so it's a hard connection.
Oh, you're tethering. You're not hotspotting.
Tethering.
You're tethering. Two different things.
Oh, okay. Well, usually I go through my hotspot menu and then I click something and then the tethering option pops up, and that's not doing that. I don't know if it's your end or mine, but you're like a chipmunk now. I don't know what's going on. All right, I don't know if you guys can hear me. I don't know what's going on. Let me find my tethering option. There we go. So if I do that, mobile hotspot on. There we go. I found it. All right, folks. Usually it switches. There we go. All right. I am officially tethered, as it's called. So hopefully I'll have no internet connection issues. And Brett is quickly signing out and signing back in. So I will do this. Let's do the ad read since we're having a bumpy start to the morning. Let me get us up here. Here we go. All right. First sponsor, Team Titans Real Estate. Why? Because you matter. That's right. Even though we utilize the latest in tools and technology to maximize your home buying and selling experience, we never forget at its core, it's still a people business. And it's been an interesting time in real estate right now. You got the market is kind of in flux. There's different price points some price points are super strong right now, and you're still getting crazy bidding wars. Then there's other price points where things are a little bit more tough. So we have, so if you're in the under 300,000 price point, that's a very hot market still. If you're trying to sell a house in that, we're still seeing bidding wars, things like that. But if you're in between, like, for 300 to 500, it's still a good market. Between 500 to $1 million, we're seeing a lot of price decreases. We're seeing it taking longer to sell. And then what I'm hearing is in the over $1 million price point, that market is still doing decent because it's those people are recession proof, as they say. So we don't have they've got enough money to survive all this inflation that's going on and things like that. So anyways, we know what's going on in the markets in the different cities. Some cities are hotter than others right now. So time will tell as far as where things go. But that's where Jill and I come in. We are keeping our finger on the pulse of everything. Our buyer and seller consultations with you are free. So give us a call, 586-232-5144, and we can take care of you today.
All right. Am I sound better?
Yes, there you go.
All right. You're breaking up quite a bit, though.
Yeah, I am officially tethered now.
Okay.
So hopefully no more issues moving forward.
Well, we will see because you keep breaking up. So, but We have Loringer Family Chiropractic Center, PC, located in Belleville, Michigan, and Dexter, Michigan. And they take great pride in providing the finest chiropractic care to each and every patient, offering on-site digital x-rays, orthotics by foot levelers, young limb essential oils, aromatherapy, full and vitamins, all in a family-oriented environment. Give them a call, 734-697-4244. You can visit them online here at Facebook, Loringer Family Chiropractic Center, PC. We have a link to their website on oddmusings.com as well. You see some of the stuff they do here. Scott and I both do chiropractic as part of our wellness, and we both have given many testimonials. So definitely check out Lawrence Family Chiropractic if you're in the Southeast Michigan area. If not, you can always give them a call and help them. They can help you find a good chiropractor in your area. And so I told the other guy the other day, he was talking about it. Something came up and I said, "Yeah, I go to a chiropractor all the time." He goes, "Why?" I said, "Well, I've got injuries that I keep getting out of alignment and something, so I keep going back." I said, "But the first thing they will do is talk about what chiropractic is, take x-rays, and that would be before they even try to adjust you. If you get a chiropractor tries to adjust you beforehand, you definitely need to get off the table and leave."
I'm out of here. Peace
Yeah.
out.
Yep. You are really breaking up, Scott, just so you know. It was better before. This is even worse stuttering, so I don't know what's going on with your internet.
I don't understand. It says full power for internet signal.
Are you really on your tether, or is it still on the office one?
It says tether. The computer says I'm on the tether now.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if it's better the other way, I'll just switch back.
Yeah, because you're at least where I could see you're like half in, half out. So
Let's try this. Let's see. If I do that. Okay. For some reason, usually if I'm on Wi-Fi on my computer, it'll say it. But on my tether, and then the tether symbol comes up. But when I opened up the tether symbol, the Wi-Fi symbol was still on inside that thing. So I just shut that off. So we'll see. I should truly be on tether now.
Okay. Let's
we'll
catch up a little bit here. So
you think it'd be better if I signed out and signed back in?
I'd give it a quick try.
Okay.
You know? Oh, I'm back. I think we're having a StreamYard issue here. So if we lose you guys, so
Maybe the StreamYard thing?
yeah, because that little Wi-Fi symbol popped up in the corner says I didn't have good connection, and I'm like going, okay, but I went out at the same time you did, so
interesting.
But your sound better.
Do I? All right.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with this.
Yeah, your video is still a little but
right.
You might want to change. I don't know. What do you have your video set on? Do you have it set for HD or at 480p?
I have no idea. Where do I check that?
Click settings, go to camera.
Are you talking about on my phone though, or are you talking about
on the StreamYard?
On StreamYard? Okay.
Yeah, click settings and go to camera. Like I'm set to 480p. And this is me at high def.
Where are settings? Oh, there we go.
Yeah, bottom words S E
camera 480p.
Yeah, 480p is the low definition is 360. Standard's 480.
So should I do high?
No, I mean that's more data.
Should I do low?
Yeah, you're already at 480, so you should be fine. I wouldn't go any lower.
Oh.
So
here. I clicked it.
Yeah.
Let's see if that helps.
Okay.
I could go back to 480 if it's not like people need high def of this.
Yeah. Well, now that you're also have joined the 50s club.
Yes, as of yesterday, I am now in my 5th decade. Well, 6th decade.
Starting your 6th, technically.
Starting my
start
at
0, yeah. But yeah, you're in the 50s. You are now counting down the years to your senior coffee at McDonald's.
Yep. Yep.
So I was always cracking when I don't go to McDonald's hardly anymore, but when I was younger and I used to go a lot more when I was in my 20s, and these old guys walk in and they're like, senior coffee, and give them like their quarter or whatever and get their cup of coffee. Yeah.
Yep.
They just wait for a senior discount. Now, the next thing is because they keep changing it. It used to be at some restaurants were 55. Most have gone to, I think, 60 to 62. It's what a couple of older gentlemen I know used to call the OMD, the old man discount.
Yep.
And
Yep.
get your 10% off your meal.
Way back when, for a very brief moment, I was a waiter at Bill Knapp's.
Oh, wow.
And their policy was whatever your birthday was, you got the discount of that year you were turning. So if you were turning 72, you got 72% off your bill.
Wow.
But if you were turning 105, they would pay you 5%.
Well, if you got a 105-year-old coming in to eat some Bill Knapp's,
yeah,
he deserves to get paid
well,
to eat the Bill
that was what they said. So, yep. So it was, you got your discount based upon your age.
Okay.
Maybe that's why they're no longer around. Maybe too many 105-year-olds showed up.
Actually, they're not around partly because that's kind of what it is. Is actually it's not that they were showing up as they started dying off, and unfortunately, younger people did not pick up going to Bill Knapp's. Bill Knapp's was good. It was
They were
decent.
good.
It was decent food. It was homemade style. It was
Yeah.
basic stuff you like. And I think also probably some mismanagement on their part. I mean, you still see the Bill Knapp's things like the bumpy cake and a couple other things at like stores like Meyer, things like that. So someone bought that brand name to continue those particular things. So that's still around. So, but yeah, it's that was a good restaurant. I mean, I didn't grow a ton growing up, but I went here and there and even into my 20s before they were closed. But
Yeah.
I knew a guy in college that worked at one, and all the older people would come in and they would order Senka. And he'd go, "Oh, you're welcome."
Nice.
And that's why he didn't work there very long. And that's so, but yeah, so Scott and I started a discussion. I think this is a good place to start with that. Is before we got on the air, we were talking. Why don't you tell them what you found in the article first?
Here, let me. I have the article here, so might as well share it. So it's up on the screen here. So this is an article I came across in Collider. It came out last week, so I thought it might be interesting to talk about. But Marvel, especially their early numbers for the Marvels movie coming out is going to be devastating, like insanely low. They're projecting like 60 million total. It's going to be worse than the Flash, Blue Beetle. They're projecting a disaster. So Marvel is really looking at everything. The ratings are down on their series. The movies aren't producing. So they recognize they have a massive internal issue with how they're making their product. It's not connecting to the fans. So one of the things is the Disney series. They're going to start hiring showrunners for their Disney series. So evidently their executive producers were acting kind of as showrunners in the past, but they weren't official showrunners. They would rely heavily on post-production to create a story after they've shot things. So I think this will be a huge move in the right direction for Disney to get back on track, because Brett knows more about this stuff than I do. So I'll let him talk about what is a showrunner and why is that important, and how is a showrunner running a show different than an executive producer running a show?
All right. Well, actually, it's one and the same in a lot of ways. A showrunner will be credited as an executive producer, but the showrunner is the person that truly is over everything. In terms of even movies, George Lucas was a showrunner when it came to the first 3 Star Wars movies. He may have wrote and directed the first one, but he handed off a lot of duties for the second and third, but he still oversaw everything. That was the showrunner. In modern days, right now, with using Disney Plus as an example, while Kevin Feige was a showrunner for the Marvel movies, he kind of just became executive producer, and they kind of, as a group, just threw out, just do whatever, but here's some basic things we're going towards. That's why we see the stuff about Kang coming up in Loki, things like that. But a true showrunner right now on Disney Plus would be 2 people, Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau. Jon Favreau for Mandalorian, and he brought in Filoni to help him out there. And then Filoni's been the showrunner for Ahsoka. And a lot of times the showrunner is also the main writer, because they are writing it. And a lot of times when you see someone else credited as the writer, they may have wrote the actual final script, but it's always a writer's room of everybody working on it. And they're the person that takes all the ideas that were collected from the showrunner and everybody else. And showrunner says, okay, here's the final plot line. You go and script it out. That's the dialogue. That's putting a cohesive, flow through the action and everything else in the final script. But a showrunner is overseeing the start to finish of the story and where it's going from
Yeah.
beginning to end. And unfortunately, with Marvel after Endgame, um, they did not have a direction. So Feige said, "Hey, we're just going to kind of go anywhere." Basically, what they did was, you hear the old saying, "We're going to throw crap on the side of a barn and see what sticks." That's
Yeah.
exactly what they did. And unfortunately, a lot of the crap was just crap, and it fell off, but it still
Yeah.
stuck around longer than it should have.
Well, and I think with the real big issue too is with Feige being the executive producer and semi acting as showrunner is
Mhm.
he wasn't in the process from beginning to end. That guy does so much in Marvel on so many different levels. He
Right.
doesn't have time to focus on one series, all his attention to make sure that series is, from beginning to end. So I
Right.
think it was just he would give some notes like this is kind of what we want. They would shoot tons of stuff. And then in post production say, okay, what can we make out of this? That's kind of what I'm getting from reading some of the articles.
Well, and that's the whole thing. He was able to show run the movies, but when you start splitting off to the TV, you have to. He kind of needs to be an overall Marvel showrunner. Like, okay, this is the ultimate goal we want to get to, which he's not done.
Right.
And that they introduced Kang, and they said, "We're just well, okay, we'll just run with that." The thing that he got lucky with was a couple things from early on. One was Favreau, again, great showrunner, set up the Marvel universe with the Iron Man movie. And when they came and said, "What else can we do?" He said, "Here's what you do." And that was he showrun that first phase.
And
And
the
then
key there was he's a massive Marvel fan to begin with.
I think that's part of it. I think it's just having someone that can actually tell good stories, regardless if they're a
Right.
fan or not. But no
But
one
but he
really
understood the fan base because he is a
correct.
fan himself.
But what they got lucky with was number 2, which was a throwaway post-credit scene they never thought anybody would truly bite on, was throwing in Thanos. And when they did that and the fans went absolutely
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah,
I
that
mean,
was
that's
pure luck.
yeah, and that was something I was at. I think I don't know if you were with me or not. You might not. I was at Big Ben's Comics Free Comic Book Day 2 days after the Avengers had opened on Thursday night. Everybody was talking about it,
Mm-hmm.
and people were saying, "Oh my god, did you see the credit scene?" And which was Thanos. And then a lot of people had missed the second credit scene because they didn't know there'd be another one, which was the shawarma scene, which was a
Right.
throwaway scene. But people went back and saw it again that weekend just to see
Right.
that credit scene, as well as the fact that the movie was very good. But the first thing was, "Oh my god, Thanos! They're going to do," and the first thing I said, "Infinity Gauntlet." That's
Yeah.
all they said was, "It's going to go to Infinity Gauntlet." They had no idea they were going to go that way until the fans started posting and going nuts, and
Yeah.
all us bloggers and podcasters and everything said, "Oh my god, they're going to be doing this, and this is what that story is."
Yeah.
And here's the comics. You run to your comic shop and buy them because they're still like $1 a comic. They're gonna
Yeah.
be worth big money, and
Yeah.
read the story.
Actually, going back to that, you're right. And really, Kevin Feige is Jed Clampett. He just
Mhm.
happened to strike oil in his backyard because of that scene. And
Well, and they brought him in to as and elevated him up to, and he did a great job of kind of
yes.
navigating that course.
Well, and they were smart and they paid attention to the fan base. Whereas that's where DC gets it wrong is
Mhm.
their thing is, well, this is my version. You're going to see it whether no matter what we do, you're going to see it anyways. This is our interpretation. Marvel was like, okay, we have something here. Let's keep exploring.
Right. And like I said, talking about showrunners, there it is. Jon Favreau, Hollywood Reporter, 50 most powerful TV showrunners of 2022. Favreau's up there. They don't list them in actual order on this thing here. And what's he say here? Centerpiece for The Mandalorian. He further tested the Star Wars IP waters with Book of Boba Fett. And then there are others trading out Lucasfilm. You see Joby Harold's Obi-Wan Kenobi and Tony Gilroy's Andor, but it's Favreau, as it says here, is the executive producer on forthcoming projects Ahsoka, Skeleton Crew, and Rangers. So, I mean, and I would say realistically for anything dealing with Ahsoka, it is Filoni.
Yeah.
That's his girl. He
Yeah.
created her. He built her up as a character. He introduced her from nothing in Clone Wars to being this fan loved character. And realistically, she was fan loved for those that truly watched through towards the end of Clone Wars and into Rebels when they brought her in.
But the key question is why, and I think the why is Filoni has once again at the core massive fan. When he was hired in, he was making his own Jedi outfit by hand. Like the guy understands Star Wars inside out, and then he's gotten to work side by side with George Lucas. And when you hear Filoni talk about how the Force works, what makes Star Wars, there's a love and a passion in there. It's not about
Well, and that's
Well, let's
where
make stockholders happy. He understands what the story is.
yeah, and that's where you take when you have an existing franchise, you need someone that truly knows it. But a great showrunner is someone that also can come in with something brand new. As
Yeah.
an example, Vince Gilligan. What did he do? Breaking Bad. He created a whole Breaking Bad universe around that.
Yeah.
And he has, and he went out to create this whole thing. I mean, just, it was, people are like, what's this Breaking Bad? Oh my God, this is awesome. And it ran on for its run. Then they go and do
Better Call
Better
Saul.
Call Saul and
Yeah.
go on from there. And he's done a few other things here and there. So talk about that. These are a few other ones. Angela Kang, she does The Boys.
Yeah.
She's taking an existing franchise and she's been running that. And that's something too. She's taking something existing that wasn't popularly known. It was known in the comic world, and it's created something now that has broadened out even more because we've been watching the new spinoff, the Gen V, stuff like that. So I mean, there's a lot of other ones. Donald Glover. Donald Glover's has worked in a bunch of stuff too. He serialized a spin on Mr. and Mrs. Smith. Things like that. It's talking about here. He's got stuff on FX. So it is Atlanta. Yeah,
and through the rumor mill, I don't know how greenlit it is, but supposedly he's doing originally a Lando series. Then I read it's now going to be a movie, so I don't know which. But
with the way the Star Wars franchise is so in flux right now,
yeah,
with movies / TV shows, the only thing that's been guaranteed is another season of Andor. I'm sure they're going to announce eventually. They're waiting for the full writer strike the writer strikes are back to work, but the actor strike to be done and stuff like that. So I can truly start announcing these new projects.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that stuff there, but these are a bunch of, like I said on here, different ones and people you may not know. Sterling Harjo, he did a Reservation Dogs show. It's not always about these top franchises. The showrunner is someone that oversees different things. Here's this guy here, John Hoffman. He does Only Murders in the Building.
So
big hit.
So in the hierarchy of things,
yeah,
a director reports to a showrunner.
It depends on on a TV show, a director's if they're not the showrunner / executive producer to begin with, they're basically just controlling the day-to-day shooting of the stuff. The showrunner comes in and is overseeing where the story is going. They're proving scripts, proving story, and things like that. So, and a lot of showrunners, like in the different shows, like Breaking Bad, wrote a lot of that themselves,
right?
Because it's their story. And we're seeing more and more of showrunners being auteurs, which is they're not just creating it, they're writing it, they're kind of directing it as well.
And a good example of how it can be a bad thing is on that list. The next one that was on there was Mindy Kaling. She was the showrunner / writer for the new Scooby-Doo. And that was a disaster.
Yes.
Because she wanted to make it her own thing and not about what.
And she's done other stuff. Let me scroll down a little bit here and find her.
I used to love her TV series. What was it? Mindy. Just Mindy, I think it was called.
Yeah, something about Mindy or something like that. I forget. Yeah. Mindy Kaling, and she did she's been along with, now showrunners aren't always one person. They could be a group, a couple people. Like she was the showrunner Never Have I Ever with showrunner Lang Fisher at Netflix. The Sex Lives of College Girls with showrunner Justin Noble. So she's kind of getting into some different executive producing and stuff and working with other people as showrunners.
Yeah.
But yes, the Mindy Project was her show.
Mindy Project. I really enjoyed that one.
And I think that so when this came out, this article it talked about her writing her animated Scooby-Doo prequel, so it doesn't talk about how bad that was. Velma, and she's going to voice it. And the problem with this was you could tell was someone coming in a personal project, saying, "Oh, I love Scooby-Doo. I've always wanted to play Velma, but I want to change everything."
Yeah, and that's where then create your own series, and it could still be inspired by that franchise that you love.
Yeah, we didn't need to have Scooby-Doo, so we didn't have to have the other characters. She could have created a animated female character that was a detective, and if she wanted to do that aspect of it, and then introduce all those other elements she did. I still probably wouldn't have watched it because I personally didn't care for. I tried to watch it, the writing was bad, story was bad, and then of course when you're taking beloved characters and you're completely bastardizing them, that's not good either.
A great example is and I stand by this, the Matthew Broderick Godzilla movie. Had they just not called it Godzilla and made the exact movie, but had it no part of the Godzilla franchise and just called it a different name, I think people would have loved that movie.
Possibly.
But
Possibly
because it was Godzilla, it didn't fit the mold of who Godzilla was, and it
right.
came across as weird. But had that been a standalone monster movie, that could have turned into a franchise.
Yeah.
You know,
So, things like that. So, and but again, as we're talking about showrunners, though, there's a lot of big ones out there. There's people like David E. Kelly. They've done a lot of work. They don't necessarily oversee every aspect of the day-to-day running on a show, but as a showrunner, they always just make sure the story's staying on track, where it's going to. They are the creators, and they will tell people, say, "Hey, this is your start. This is your end. Here's a couple things in the middle. You need to get from here to there."
was David E. Kelly? No, he was like, oh, that female. She was in Supergirl as the boss. She's married to
Oh,
Harrison Ford.
yeah. You're talking about Calista Flockhart.
Yeah, what was David E. Kelly her show that she did way back when?
I think so. He did a lot. He's done a
He did
lot.
a lot. Who was like sit Ubu sit?
Oh yeah, that one was. Oh man, he was around for a long time
But
too.
he did
But,
tons of stuff.
but back on David Kelly, real quick. Yeah, he did Ally McBeal, which was
Ally McBeal,
Callista's.
yeah.
Boston Legal, Lincoln Lawyers, his current one. Um, he did Boston Public. Big Sky, Big Little Lies. I mean, he's got a huge thing. He did Harry's Law, which actually was on for a couple of seasons. I like that one. That one had oh, what's her name? I'm looking at it right now, and I can't think of it. Kathy Bates,
Oh, yeah.
which was great. So if you go look at that, but then the Sit Ubu Sit, boy, that was a big one from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah. That's
And that one was Ubu Productions. And that one was an independent 20 Gary David Goldberg.
oh,
And he
there you
did
go.
things like Family Ties, Brooklyn Bridge, Spin City. He did a open house, His and Hers, Champ, Spin City, Battery Park, Bronx Zoo. So a lot of those different ones there. He popped through a lot of stuff, but mainly most people probably know it from, I would say, like things like Spin City, Family Ties, stuff like that were out for quite a while, and he got a lot of replay too. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, these executive producers, I mean, what was the name? The ones that did Happy Days, those guys, those were showrunners.
Yeah.
And they were also executive producers. Like, so, I mean, I think you'll never see them credited so much as showrunner versus executive. Same thing. Executive producer what gets them paid. Another big one, Chuck Lorre, Big Bang Theory,
Yeah.
Young Sheldon, some of his current stuff, but he's been around for a long time on that too. So I think that with Marvel, they just didn't get into having someone actually control that. And the thing with this is, if they're going to do showrunners, they need an overall showrunner that's going to work in the TV aspect. Say, okay, here's all the shows coming out, and this is all the where they need to go. Because the Marvel is an interconnected universe, and if you're going to have all these series, you can't have one going way off somewhere else, one going way off somewhere else. If they're going to eventually want to converge them into the same storyline, if they tying into the movies and things like that, which is what they've been hinting at for the longest time. But even then, that was Feige screwing up by saying, well, here's a basic idea, just kind of go with it. And that's why when we got, I didn't necessarily dislike a lot of them, but at the same time, they're at the end of it, it's like, where's this all going? We're still asking that question. Where's this all going?
Right.
And when we saw some of the movies that came out recently, and then we got one more movie coming out, the Ms. Marvel, where's it all going? We don't have a definite thing. I mean, that's fine. Tell just a unique story. You don't necessarily have to have a major end game to tie it in, but if it's going to be somewhere in the series, you have to tie it into an end eventually for that series. So
one underrated one right now throw out there for a showrunner that I'm very grateful for. I had to look him up though because I didn't know his name. Akiva Goldsman.
Yes,
he's the showrunner for Strange New Worlds. He is bringing Star Trek back with the Fury, and he's got quite the resume. He's been on tons of things, so I'm loving what he's doing. And also, when you hear interviews with him, he's also another one who understands the franchise. If you're going to work in franchises, know the franchise. know it. Well, don't make it your own.
Now, here on Odd Music, we've talked about this quite a bit. Real quick, because I think she's always. I want to say hi to Mama Kathy down in Florida and that. So she always listens. She doesn't always listen live, but she always does check out our show. She's a longtime fan. And the thing with, because we've talked this a lot, is so many people come into these existing franchises, and the first thing they want to do is change everything. why? Create your own then at this point. You know,
Yeah.
it really shows that they don't have any true creativity in terms of creating their own. So they go, "Well, I have all these ideas, so I want to do this." I mean, we talked about it heavily with Star Wars, with the sequel movies, but it's been in a lot of other things. I mean, we saw like that animated Velma. They're always coming on change it. I tried to watch the new Tiny Toons, and they got new people on it, different voice actors. They took the Babs and Buster Bunny, which in the original one, one of the big jokes was Babs and Buster Bunny, no relation. It was funny, you know, last name Bunny. They're both bunnies, but they're not related. The new one is they're twins, so now they're related. They're like,
Right.
why? That doesn't matter. And they got rid of half the characters. I tried to watch the first episode. It's like, no, this is garbage. It's not even
Yeah.
funny. And that's the whole thing is they want to change up everything. It's just like a
Yeah.
restaurant.
That's what I was going to say. Restaurant's the perfect example.
I had a restaurant called the Memphis Smokehouse in Ypsi, the Ann Arbor area that was great. Right on Washtenaw. They did great barbecue. They had great sides. Every Friday they did this perch. It was like a white wine perch that was really good. And we go get it almost every week, all the time. It was great. Love that place. The owner sold it to a guy who gave it to his son, who was like 24, who would just sit at the bar with his girlfriend drinking. And then he's like, well, I don't like fish. So he got rid of the fish specials, got rid of this, got rid of that. Started realizing they were losing money because he didn't care. And people that were leaving and they started cutting costs. And you could tell the quality of food went down. We stopped going. A few months later, it closed. And
But
it's been like 4 or 5 other restaurants since then. So
yeah, and a similar analogy with Star Wars is to take it a step further is then the owners who just changed everything start blaming the customers for their failure because, well, just because I switched it to an all vegan menu, you should be happy with the Beyond Beef that I'm giving you.
Well, see,
So
here's
it's your
the
fault.
thing with that. And I've run into this with people online when I've criticized things like Turtle movies, the Michael Bay ones, stuff like that. There's too many of these fans that are very vocal, and they're not a big majority. It's a minority that will say this. Well, if you don't like insert whatever, then you're not a fan.
Right.
Fans love everything no matter what because they're just happy to get whatever. It's like, no. I want to, and you like that back to the restaurant thing. So, are you happy if I come to you and I give you a steaming pile of crappy food and tell you that's a filet mignon? You go, no, it's not. It's like, well, you like filet mignon. I say that's filet mignon, and you should eat it because that's what I say it is. No, it's like the Michael Bay Turtle movies. They sucked. I'm sorry, they were not good movies.
Yeah.
They had elements in there that were okay, but overall, they sucked.
Yeah. Well, and even that, like last minute, they made a lot of changes to try to appease the fans, but they were going to have them aliens and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's just ridiculous. But yeah,
Plus,
regarding that group, that group you're talking about, they'll say, well, if you don't like this, then you're not a true fan. But the second they make something that pleases the fans, that same group will come out and say, oh, it was just fan service.
Right. And I'm sorry, when you have an existing franchise, you should be giving fan service. Fan service is giving the fans what they want. Good stories that fall in line with everything that we've seen before, that fit the mold of what's going on.
Well, and a really good showrunner or producer or whoever's writing the story, you find a way to give the fans what they want, but it's okay to deny a little to create a craving for more or to cause tension. But you do it within the boundaries, the structure of that franchise, that universe that has already been created, and people will accept it. But when you just go completely off track and make Luke Skywalker this grumpy old guy who doesn't fit the mold of who Luke Skywalker is, without any story arc to explain how he got that way, it's going to be rejected. You know?
Yeah. And more I've thought about this over the years is it really does go back to The Force Awakens, and JJ should have introduced Luke the proper way and not just an end scene and stuff like that.
Well, JJ shouldn't have been hired because he was because they wanted him to write all 3 movies, and he was too afraid. According to him, he loves Star Wars. It terrified him to handle the whole trilogy, so he only agreed to do one. They should have, if they wanted to use him as director, that's one thing for one movie. But they should have hired one person to write the entire arc, so it was a unified voice.
And that's where they didn't have a proper showrunner for that. And then you have an executive producer who
Ryan Johnson, who just decides to do whatever he wants.
No, he's a director.
Oh, director.
Talking about even higher than that.
Oh, Kathleen Kennedy.
Yes.
Yeah. But she relinquished full control to Johnson.
And that's the problem, is she was as a showrunner, kind of, she said, hey, just do what you want. We know you're going to be fine. He gave you a basic outline of what his script was. Just kind of follow along with that and do whatever you want. And then when they realized it was crap, and again, these were people above her at
Yeah.
Disney Studios. What do? They come in. Okay, we can't do anything to fix this. They knew they were screwed because of timing and everything else. And then they went in and looked at the other Star Wars movie,
Han Solo.
Solo, and realized, oh crap! They fired the directors immediately. Brought in Ron Howard,
Yep.
who is one of George's still one of his good friends to this day, and
Yep.
has been since he did American Graffiti. Because him and George, I mean, you read all the stuff they talks about with him and George is he didn't just talk about whatever. He wanted to learn from George. George knew stuff. He said, I want to learn how to do this. And George said, yeah, this is what I do. Follow along, do this. And then he went off and did Corman movies so he could learn how to direct. And then he comes back in and he ends up doing Willow for Lucas. Lucas as the showrunner on the movie Willow. And it was the director, Ron Howard. So Ron knew the vision he wanted and knew how to deliver it, and did the same thing with Solo. Came in with the Lucas mentality, working with the Kasdans on what they wrote to bring that back in, bring the story around, and still salvage the millions they had already spent to shoot what they spent.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you got Bryce Dallas Howard, who she retells in interviews, remembering sitting at dinners with George Lucas as a child because her dad would be having meetings with him, and so she would hear all this and soak it all in. And so I think she also has a drive to produce good like the episodes she produces in Mandalorian have been really good.
Yes.
So I do look forward to seeing her work, but just because someone does a good job like that, a great example is Taika Waititi. He did a great job with Ragnarok, but then he was given full control on Love and Thunder, and he just went off the rails.
Yeah, because his own storytelling is out there. I mean, look at was it the World War II movie he did? Was it Run Rabbit Run? I think it was. And it was that one. I mean, it was a good movie. I mean, because it was his own thing from beginning to end of what he was telling, and he captured some of the horrors of Germany, but he did it from such a different viewpoint we'd never seen before. And a kid that had been brainwashed and fell into the whole love of Hitler that the Hitler youth were supposed to be, and then seeing how it wasn't true. And then, he was able to deal with those dynamics in a very humorous way, but also very serious way. But he took an existing franchise and said, hey, I'll just write my own fan story. Someone should have read that script.
But even worse is he didn't go in there to write his own fan story, because leading up to it, he did some posts that kind of foreshadowed, and looking back, he takes pleasure in destroying established characters. Those were his words, like, be ready for me to destroy your heroes. And it's like, well, wait a minute, you're going in with the intention of ruining? Like, what's with that?
I don't understand what that mentality is, and we've seen that a lot in the last couple decades, especially is we didn't have to destroy the established whatever.
Right.
And this is on every level, not just entertainment, but everything.
Then you're not a fan.
Then you're not a fan. You're not really trying, because you want to destroy something, but you have no plan to really build it back up. See, the thing with the destruction of something is, they don't destroy your roads. They destroy it and then they rebuild them. And if you're going to go out and destroy in the entertainment industry and existing characters and established heroes and things like that, but you have nothing to build up to, you're just all you're doing is just mass destruction, and it's not entertaining.
It's the same crowd who wants to tear down every statue.
Yes.
It has nothing to do with building something for the future. It's about ripping down the past because you're angry about something, and you're just trying to tear down idols or traditions or whatever.
And we see that a lot all over. I mean, we saw 20 years ago, the Taliban came through and they destroyed all the Buddha statues that have been there for thousands of years, blew them up. So because they said, oh, that doesn't fit our religion or what we believe, it's gone. And people that in that type of mindset, it's all over through the entertainment in the real world. And the more you do that, the more you destroy stuff, the more that you're not building up. It's like we're losing the history and trying to destroy the past. And most of them will say this has to go, this has to change. Well, what should we do to make it better? And most will just like, there's nothing you can do. It just has to go.
Right.
There is no, and when entertainment, when you say, I've got to kill off Luke Skywalker, I've got to kill out or destroy Thor as a hero and make him a doofus. I got to do a Ghostbusters movie, and I'm going to introduce these characters, show that they're brilliant at first, and then make them all stupid because they got hot for a guy. That's destroying franchises. I've been seeing articles pop about the female Ghostbusters saying, "Oh, it really was this great movie. People just don't understand." And I'm like, "Oh no! If you watched it, I would have liked it if one, They didn't make the guy completely stupid and then
Yeah.
walking in and, oh yeah, I'm hot. I got no brain, but I'm hot. And all he goes, oh my god, he's so hot.
Yeah.
I'm a like a 180 IQ genius, but oh my god, he's so hot. Yeah,
Right.
and that's all you got out of it. I mean,
Yeah.
and there's things
But
that
then
help.
they had the other Ghostbusters one, which was
Yeah,
genius. And they
yeah,
had a female lead. The young girl is like the future of the franchise, it looks like, and everyone loved her.
because what they did was if they wanted to reboot like they did with the female one, they should have done a better reboot, really building it up better.
Yeah.
And taking itself serious. That's the other thing is when these movies come out is Ghostbusters itself, when you see how they label it on everything, it truly shows what it is. It'll say comedy, it'll say drama, it'll say horror. It's a mix of stuff. Too much of the female Ghostbusters and a lot of comedic movies are trying to be forced comedy. They're trying,
Yes.
and I'm seeing more people actually say that now. I think I've coined that phrase for years, and so I'm seeing it pop up in articles and different posts and things like that. You try too hard to be funny, you're not funny. We
Right.
know this and your friends. Look at your friends. Look at any of your friends you hang out with, and there's always someone trying to be funny. And it changes from that person. It's not always just one person. It'll
Right.
change because someone says, "I want to try to be funny," and they don't even think it necessarily that way. But it's like they'll say something just like, "Yeah, it's not funny, dude." Yeah, and that's what these movies feel like. It's like the guy we talked about from the Netflix movie with Pierce Brosnan, complaining, "Oh, nobody's going to watch my movie or whatever else or blah blah blah. I have to do this, and these movies suck, and comedy can't be comedy." No, comedy is good comedy. You just didn't do good comedy.
Right. Yeah.
So
So yeah, it'll be interesting to see where Marvel goes. Same with Star Wars, because like
yeah.
the rating, I enjoyed the Ahsoka series, but the ratings are very low for it.
Well, I think
Yeah.
the problem we're running into now is people have just gotten tired of everything that would watch anything. Where people like you and I, even you and I, have kind of a couple of things are like, yeah, this kind of sucks. I don't want to finish it. But it's Ahsoka, I enjoyed the whole thing. I think a lot of people just didn't want to give it a chance. And then of course you've got the initial press release stuff, which is not just legitimate press. It's also just everybody that has a computer that blogs and podcasts and everything else
Mhm.
saying, saw the first episode. Oh, this sucks. Why are they doing this? And, they have, it, there's an overall thing going on. And for someone like a Filoni, I trust it. It's like Vince Gillen. He comes out with a new show. I'm going to give it a shot. I'll give it a
Mhm.
chance, things like that. I mean, I like everything, but as far as Star Wars for the series stuff, I've enjoyed most of what they've done. Has it been perfect? No, I can definitely pick apart and gripe anything. The best has been the Mandalorian series. Book of Boba Fett, I enjoyed it, but it was really just Mandalorian 2.5. And
Yeah.
I thought it would be something a little bit more. But they've taken this character where they took him one direction, and then they brought him right back to right thing, going, maybe being a mobster is not for me,
Yeah.
and it's like, yeah, we want to go in, we want to see Boba Fett as the bounty hunter,
Yeah. They took it a weird way, hopefully moving forward. But that's the thing. They took it a weird way, and it's like, why aren't people liking this?
Well, that's why, because it wasn't what
That's
we
why.
expected for the character, and
Yeah.
then you start bringing it back. Was it a horrible series? No, it was fun. I enjoyed it. Ahsoka, I really liked it. Ahsoka really is Rebels. Season 5.
Yep.
It's they called it Ahsoka, I think, because it's not so much focus on, because really it's like Vinny was telling me, he goes, they're just not even focusing on her. It's kind of all over the place.
Yeah.
But they wanted to have a name recognition that was not
Yeah.
just a blanket title.
Yeah.
So, it really does tie in through her. So we get a Ahsoka season 2, or if they're going to do something else. I mean, there's too much story for me to say, hey, just go do a movie and end it. They set up a lot of stuff that I think they could, through some of the series, actually add some relevance to even the sequel movies, because they're not going to get rid of them. It's just they're there, they're going to be around. But if they can do some stuff ahead of time and then circumnavigate around them for any future Star Wars stuff, I think they could actually have some really good stories to tell.
Yeah.
Stories where you don't have to watch Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker. So
Right.
But yeah, but a showrunner, that's what we need for this stuff. When you're dealing with these in-depth franchises, movies, things like that. I mean, think of any show you like, any not just Star Wars or sci-fi or whatever else, but think of any. You have to have someone that oversees it.
Right.
And that's, like I said, Vince Gillen's a great thing to show, like Breaking Bad. Seth MacFarlane with his Orville about sci-fi.
Oh, that was great.
He oversees that.
That was so
You
well
mentioned
done.
Kiva Goldsmith. Kiva Goldsmith said, I'm going to do this thing. Boom, take it there. But even you get a bad showrunner. Discovery. I'm sorry. Discovery got lucky when they did the Pike stuff, and they looked at it like, that right there is what we need to do, and
That launched
they
Strange New
ran with it.
Worlds.
Yep, Stranger Worlds is the future of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And
And
but
that
even others,
wasn't really
yeah,
planned, I don't believe. I think that was just purely the fan reaction, and thankfully the studio saying, "Oh, we have something here." Just like Picard, it took 3 seasons, but season 3
yeah,
was amazing for Picard.
yeah,
And so hopefully that's something where they can say, "Okay, this is what the fans want."
right,
So we'll see.
yeah,
Speaking of some other things fans want,
yeah,
so we got the Boys Gen V series out. That's
yeah.
I'm really liking that, and I forgot coming up in November is Invincible season 2 is coming out.
Yep, and while I haven't watched the first season, they also have the Adam Eve spinoff, which I see pop up every once in a while on
Oh,
Prime.
do
And
they have a
yeah,
spinoff on that?
yeah, they already
Okay,
did one season of that too. So they're telling
okay,
her story from a different aspect. So she had her own comic series for a little while, not much. It was a spinoff from the Invincible.
yeah,
And that, but yeah, Invincible season 2, the trailer looked fantastic.
yeah.
They've upped the game on the animation, things like that. Another series that just started back up, if you watch, is Rick and Morty's got a new season.
Oh, that's right.
And here's something too: the Dan Harmon's the main showrunner. Justin Roiland was the kind of a co-showrunner slash co-creator, but he got fired because of things he did, I guess, inappropriately in the offices there.
Cool.
He was also the voices of Rick and Morty. So now they have new voice actors doing that, and they sound pretty close to the original one. So it's not a huge change in the name. You can feel a little bit in the Rick a little bit more than you can Morty, but they found people that could actually emulate those voices there. But the writing and everything else felt exactly the same because you had one main showrunner that's continued on from day one
Yeah.
on that. But yeah, definitely even in a lot of animation. Gravity Falls was one that was interesting. That was a Disney Channel one, and uh, that one had Alex Hirsch was the creator for that, and he was the showrunner. He took it to like 39 episodes. And okay, this is the end. It's done. He told the whole story. So I mean, that's something that you don't really hear too much of. So it was like a or 2 seasons and done. Um, but he said, "Hey, I got this. It's the end of the story. That's the story I wanted to tell." And so it's in anything you see out there, it's going to be like that too. So showrunners are definitely an important thing, and you could tell a series doesn't have one by how they just go all over the place.
Right.
So
The what about season 2 of Loki? How are you liking that?
it's all right.
Yeah,
Um,
I got this. Forbes put out this article here, and it says season 2 shows why the multiverse doesn't work, and they're talking about how just the issues you have when it's pretty much the same issue as like the TV show Flash when once they got stuck in the time travel loop. You gotta use. I think Star Trek does a great use of time travel. They use it a lot when you really go back and watch different things,
mhm.
but at the same time they use it sparingly. They don't.
Well, they
It,
also tie in the
constant.
Prime Directive to that, which
Correct.
was a key thing to say, "Hey, we can't be changing things."
Yeah,
But the
but when there's
multiverse is even more than that. It's more than just going back in time in the time that you're in. That's what Star Trek does. This goes multiple branches, and
right,
I said with the Flash, just like this is where Marvel and DC, even in comics, I think have gotten out. It's too many worlds,
right,
and DC, that's where they created their 52 originally, was to pare that down from
right.
the hundreds they had.
So what I was reading, and once again, who knows how much of this is true, but what I was
Mhm.
reading is from Marvel is this next phase. This phase they're going to wrap up and use the what's the final name of their Secret Wars? They're going to use Secret Wars or Secret Invasion, whatever they're calling the final thing in
Secret Wars
this.
is the next one, yeah.
Yeah, they're going to use that to pretty much kill off the parts of this phase they don't want to keep, and I guess they're going to find a way. They're talks with some actors who are gone from the universe to bring them back. So I wonder if that'll be like a Steve Rogers, who knows, and then move it forward in a way that is more true to how the first 3 phases was. So
Right.
we'll see. We'll see what happens. You never know.
Well, and that's the whole thing. I think they need to pair this up. I mean, the thing with the multiverse stuff, it only works really in comics because then you can introduce a different line of comic books to tell different stories that don't go with the main one. That's where your Ultimate series came in
Right.
comics. They could take and start off from the origin of those characters and take them in
Right.
different directions.
Well, and the other
Uh,
thing too is the lifespan of a comic book reader. It's
yeah,
longer now, but usually a comic reader would be a fan for 5, 6 years, and then they would kind of age out of it and move on.
right.
And so you could tell storylines that repeat every 6, 7 years, and it'd be a fresh story for that new base of comic readers.
Mhm.
So you could get away with things. But with movies, you've got people, we want things that are still true to the Iron Man 1,
Right.
because we all remember that and we can pop it on anytime and rewatch it.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, did you know yesterday was the official day Tony Stark died in the Marvel Universe?
Yes.
When you add in the 5-year jump,
No.
yesterday would have been the day of the final battle
Yeah.
in the
So
Marvel timeline.
right.
So on my 50th birthday, Tony bit the dust.
Yep. Yep. Scott's 50. I'm gone.
I'm out of here. Peace out.
But yeah, so I think with the whole multiverse thing, I think I mean, like I said, the only way it's worked in the movies really was Spider-Man.
It worked there. Yeah.
And the reason is they had two other Spider-Men they could pull from to bring them into this timeline, but saying there's like 1,000 different ones. I mean, even the animated Into the Spider-Verse, you see all these different Spider-Man stuff
Yeah,
like
it
that.
was too much.
It's a lot going on, and it's fine if with an animated thing like that, but to try to tie all that into the movies and keep it spreading, it's like you get too much out there. You're not going to tell any stories, so you're dealing too much with. Hey, we got 27 Lokis, and we got 84 Thors, and we got all these, and it's just way
Yeah.
too many of the same character.
Well, that goes back to the sparingly. So, like with the Spider-Man universe, it was this weird event that caused this portal to open. They
Mhm.
were interacted, and then they went home to be permanently back.
Right.
It works like that because it's a sparing use of it. But to have it where it's just, hey, any character can die and we can just go out to the multiverse to find a replacement. Well, then you
Yeah.
lose the value of the life. There's no tension for the viewer. It's like, well, we'll just replace them. That's what happened with Flash.
Yeah.
They kill off a character, and then a variant from a different Earth would show up. And it's like, okay, so you just replace them whenever you want now.
Right. And that's the whole thing is it takes away from that stuff. I mean, I like the direction they were going with like the Falcon and Winter Soldier, because it's like, okay, here's the new Captain America. They're not pulling from the multiverse.
Right.
We just continued on in the time, and that's where they should have kept on.
Yeah.
You know, they were talking about going cosmic with everything, which meant they could have introduced the Fantastic Four. You know, they were finishing up the Guardians of the Galaxy. You know, they could have gone in different directions there to bring all that stuff around. But they decided to go so much with this multiverse thing that
Yeah.
they lost track. And that's the whole thing. Again, no showrunner, but it's also way too much story.
Well, the other part too, I think the lesson they learned from Ant-Man is there is I think what part of what made the Marvel universe so good in the first 3 phases is it took place on Earth.
Right.
So as a viewer, it was something we could relate to, and it once again it adds that tension because you feel vested, you feel part of it. When you go into Ant-Man Quantumanium, it was such a foreign realm. It just didn't matter. Nothing mattered. DC, same thing. They keep pulling their battles into these weird, almost video game like atmospheres where you no longer feel vested. Like it doesn't feel like it's happening here. It's just like this weird fiery background that they're all fighting in. And it's like, okay, I don't know. The environment matters just as much, I think. And when you start doing these cosmic battles, while they're cool, I think you lose something.
Yes.
The character driven story becomes even more important. That's what, like Star Wars, these space battles and stuff are cool, but you have a love of the character, so the tension is put on the character. You can't have weak characters if you're in foreign environments.
Exactly. And it all boils down to telling a good story. It really does. And that's where I saw where they were backing off the whole thing with Daredevil.
Well, they're redoing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
because well, they hadn't. I don't know how much they got done though because the strike happened. So it may have been more just scripts were done, and now they're going
Yeah.
back and revisiting that after they've had time to really. Maybe the strike's been good for them on certain things. That people had a chance to look at this stuff, going, okay, we're kind of rushing through it, and this is not good. This is not a good direction, And Daredevil. I liked this 2 seasons or whatever they did on Netflix. Didn't care for the Defenders movie, but that was really good, and I was looking forward to what they're going to do next. They're definitely going a little more hardcore with Daredevil, even though it was a little raw, but now it's fully hardcore, and they were not going to hold back, especially introducing the Punisher more into this, and it was going to be a kind of a big deal series that I think we've always wanted as comic book fans because we've seen it in the comic books.
Yeah. Here's Hollywood Reporter.
Yeah.
Let's see. This is launched during the pandemic with a playbook to shoot $150 million plus seasons with no pilots. Disney is undergoing growing pains and seeing the logic of traditional. Oh yeah, like they're going to go get back to shooting pilots, I guess too.
Yeah.
Let's see. Trying to see if they're revamping.
Well, realistically, everything they did was these 8-episode series were 8 episodes of a pilot.
Right. It's longer than I was expecting. I'm not reading through all that, but
yeah,
I was just curious if it explained how far they got into the production of the other series before they scrapped it. And
yeah,
but it gives me hope, though. I think Marvel, money at the end of the day, money talks, and they went from being completely unstoppable to nobody even caring. Marvel's, this is going to be my first Marvel movie I don't go see. I just have no interest in it. Loki, I'm enjoying, but I honestly don't care about it because I feel like this whole multiverse thing got so convoluted the way they handled it that it's like they just need to collapse the multiverse. Use Loki to collapse the multiverse so we don't deal with it anymore.
Right.
And if you want to use it in the future, do it the way you did it in Spider-Man. Some weird event happens, you create a temporary portal, you can have a crossover event, but it's done by the end and they move on.
Exactly. And that's the thing where I think they've really screwed up is they try to broaden way too much. And problem is you get people that were doing these different series and even the movies and they were like, oh, we can tap into the multiverse, and they just want to do everything at once.
Yeah. It's just this big multiverse throw up of every version. And like the Across the Multiverse movie, I liked the first one with Miles, and I thought they handled that well. I liked the way they incorporated other characters. The second one, it just became ridiculous. It was like Neo fighting the Agent Smiths. There was like millions of Spider-Men.
And in some ways, being as a part 1 versus a part 2, I keep thinking they're going to come back into the part 2 and kind of collapse some of that down.
Yeah.
Because it's just way too much, and the Spider-Man themselves are factioning off over who should be what, and I think that's what the point is. They've gone out, now they're coming back in. They introduce all these different Spider-Man, and some are characters the fans love. I've seen some of the different Spider-Man pop up already in a couple of the shows as cosplayers. The punk rock one especially is very popular. So
people like the noir one that Nicolas Cage did the voice of.
So, but for cosplayers, I've seen like the punk rock one and a couple of the other ones, and then Miles Morales has gotten more, fans based on the movies and that too that didn't know him from the comics. So,
speaking of the Spider-Man multiverse, I did just watch Spider-Man 3, the Tobey Maguire one. And it's just so disappointing. I truly believe the Venom storyline is what ruined the movie. That was a great storyline with Sandman. And had they just focused on the Sandman storyline and made that the focus, I think that would have been a really good movie. A great movie about forgiveness, about, and all that stuff.
And that's where you have a committee of they saying, hey,
too much.
We need to introduce Venom. We want to do
Venom's really hot right now. Let's force him into it, even though it doesn't look right.
No, and the thing with Venom is that it should have been an introduction in the movie, but just as the suit. Not even as the symbiote, and show him changing, but then they'd have to do a 4th movie, and they knew they were done with him at 3.
So they just try to throw everything in.
And while the first 2 Venom movies themselves, first one was okay. I actually enjoyed the second one. It was funny. But the end tied it more into what was going on. I realized that, that's not, he shows up and that's not my Peter Parker. Realize he's a different, it's Venom. He's the Venom from the Andrew Garfield one. Garfield would have had a better place to introduce that character in
Right.
and create the whole Spider-Man versus Venom. But even then, with the Venom movie introducing Carnage and all that stuff, it was okay.
Right.
It was just throwing it all out there. In some ways, it might be better to make Venom a TV series the way they wrote those movies because they had a lot of good comedy and things like that. But saying, okay, we're going to introduce this and then kill it off within an hour and a half. I was like,
right. Yep.
So,
I think that's it for today.
Yeah, that was a good topic. We really didn't have one coming in this one. We were just going to free will it anyway. So,
yeah. No, that was a fun talk about showrunners. It's a part of the industry that doesn't get the limelight, but they're a very important part. Almost the most crucial part.
And like I said, they'll be credited as the executive producers, and you hear some of the names like a Favreau or Gilligan and things like that. You hear about when someone talks about someone's created a show, like a Mindy Kaling doing her stuff, and a few other ones that have kind of come and gone. There's a lot more out there. I mean, Tyler Perry, he is a showrunner and he oversees a lot. But again, most of his stuff he's starting with, when he's got other stuff that people deal with day-to-day stuff, he just handles that too. So,
yeah, and like one last thing I'll throw out there too is a great example of showrunners and how important they are, I think, is Walking Dead.
Yeah.
I saw Scott Gimple on that list. And really, when Scott Gimple became the showrunner for Walking Dead, that's when it all started dying off.
Yep.
I think they had two other showrunners prior and who really built that universe up really well. And once Gimple got in, it changed the way they told the story. He slowed it down. I think he was trying to be artsy or something, or who knows what.
Well, but he also killed off characters he shouldn't kill off. He got rid of Carl. Carl continued on in the comics.
That was a big major. Yeah, that was a big thing. Was Carl, the way they did him wrong, and the actor too.
It was all about the actor more than anything. Yeah. It was he didn't want to work with the actor anymore, and I never heard anything. In fact, all the other cast were surprised when that came up. Like, what? You're getting rid of him? He's the future of the show.
Well, and in real life, though, that actor made college choices based upon. They're like he specifically asked, "Am I going to stay with this? Because if so, I'm going to choose this. But if not, I'm going to choose that." And they're, "Oh no, you're safe. We're going to keep you on."
Yep.
So he made certain life decisions based upon that, and then like a couple months later, it's like, "Oh, by the way, we're killing you off."
And it was like a last minute thing to tell him that too. Right. His dad posted about it, like, they just come and say, "Yeah, you're done. This is it."
Yeah.
And they killed him off in that episode, and it was like, where's this going? And then the story just went down. I got to the point I can't remember the last season I really watched, but around that time when they killed him off, it was something after that. For me, watching the show was I'd record it when I decided I was going to watch it within a day or two. I'd put it on and I'd fast forward through a lot of it because it was just them sitting around talking and everything else. There's nothing going on because they killed off all the dynamics going on. It's like,
well,
you already dealt with Negan, you already dealt with this, and then you do the time jump.
The time jump was awful.
And that was awful. And they made Judith the focal kid point. It's like, no, Carl should have been there leading this person, and everything else. So.
Well, and then with the time jump too, out of nowhere, Rick is waking up with Michonne and they're together. It's like, what the heck? Where'd that come from? At least develop like that. That would have been good character development. If you wanted to go that direction, it would have been fine. But show the relationship grow over time, so we as the fans could enjoy that story. But instead, it's just this hard cut to them being together.
Well, even the actors felt that way, and I think that's part of the reason he decided to leave.
Yeah,
Andrew Lincoln. It was not long after that he announced, "I think this is my last season."
Yeah, and then once he killed him off,
right,
I was done. I'm just like, I'm not hanging on anymore.
Yeah, there's no reason to.
Yeah,
it's a bunch of crap. So,
but that was Gimple. That was all under that showrunner.
Right. And they've got these other new shows. Like my nephew asked me the other day if I've watched any of them. I'm like, no. I said, they lost me a long time ago. And I just don't have no desire to even go and visit the new Daryl Dixon show or the new Rick show or whatever.
And that's a great point there is once you kill the appetite of a fan on something, it's very hard to get it back. Even with Marvel, they're going to have to do insanely amazing stories in the future, in the next phase, to get people to say, okay, I'm going to come back.
And I think you've had it right. You've said about 5 years. I don't know if they're 5 years, but they should just stop everything.
Stop. Let
and
the
then
appetite come back.
and start planning what they want to do, but not rushing into production,
Yep.
and give it a couple years, and then relaunch out, the new stuff they want to do, and not come out with this big grandiose, hey, here's the next 29 films.
Right.
Say, here's a film. Here's what's going to go, and this will get you guys what you want.
Yep.
And just watch this, and then from there we're going to go to the next step.
Yeah, I think a good illustration of where we are as fans right now, because of just what they've been doing between the TV series and the movies, is the scene in The Grinch where the Grinch is laying down and they're all force feeding him, and they're like, "Here, eat this," and he's like,
Yeah.
"Arr." And they're like, "This is not pudding," and they put it in his mouth. He's like, "What is it?" That's what we as fans are going through. It's like, well, this isn't truly Marvel, and they shove it in our mouths and it's like, oh, what is it?
Yeah.
And we're gonna need a recovery period before
Yeah.
we're gonna want to go back, even if it's good. We're so stuffed on junk.
Well, and a lot of this is because that's the same thing with any industry. It doesn't matter what it is. When something's hot and popular, they just want to keep shoving more at you, and that's when you start going from having steak to having pureed pink stuff,
Yeah.
saying it's burger, but it's not.
Yeah, it's still steak. Trust us.
Yeah, we
Eat it.
extracted something just to get it almost like it. So
Yeah, so I even a 3-year gap would be good, but I think 5 years is the magic number.
Yeah, 5 is good, but I think 2 to 3, and then when they launch it, it's like, here's a movie.
Yep.
Not now it's 5, 10 movies, not a movie.
A movie.
And realistically, what they should have done was, with this whole thing, was took these last couple of years, like I said, backed off after the game, planned it out. It should have started with one film and one film only, and that should have been the Fantastic Four, and doing it right.
Right. And stop with these 5-year announcements like, here's the next 20 film. Let there be surprise. Let us be surprised at an ending of a movie, and then they release through the ending like, oh, there's going to be another one. Yay. We don't know what's coming next.
Yeah.
It's okay
and
for us not to know.
And that's what I always liked about when they were releasing the Marvel movies, like, oh, they just introduced Thor.
But right, and they would do it in a way where they didn't say Thor was coming. It was just they found a hammer and then us as fans are like, oh, that's Thor.
Yeah.
And that made and even if the movie was mediocre, that surprise ending was so strong, like Thanos at the end of the Iron Man movie. The surprise made the whole movie better, because we walk out with this energy level of wow.
And that was the whole thing. That's why at the end of the first Avengers movie, with everything, it's just, and that led to the next phase working, because they were doing these announcements afterwards, and then it became, we have to announce the whole phase.
Right. And stop announcing the whole thing. And I think that's stock driven. I think it's just so that the stockholders feel like, oh, look, we have a plan, so let's throw more money in. But in the end, you take away, if I am expecting it, you took away that
well, that's why DC
feeling, I guess.
That's where DC ruined almost all their movies, because they told us for 3-4 years ahead of time what was going to be in that movie, and all the movies that are come after it. And I was like, no, I don't care.
Right.
So
yeah, by the time it comes out, you feel like you've seen it already.
Yeah, and that's why when I did finally see him, I'm like, yeah, nothing new. I just got sat through 3 hours of blah.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, very good.
Join us next week, guys. We'll talk about some more fun stuff.
Bye.
Have a good one. Bye.